Thank you for joining us on KTN Prime. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Meresha Owiti.
More corruption allegations are continuing to haunt Parliament as several committees are implicated in shady deals with persons and institutions and investigations so as to alter final reports.
Suspended PSC Chair Babu Namwamba blames the leadership of the House for the delayed debates and avoiding reports that touch on powerful individuals in the government.
But as KTN's Aaron Ocheng now reports, National Assembly leadership is disputing Babu's claims.
It could be perhaps the last thread that Budalangi Member of Parliament Babu Namwamba is hanging on as he fights to clear his name in the corruption saga that has dragged his name and that of other Public Accounts Committee members into. According to Namwamba, forces close to government are blocking a parliamentary debate on the findings of the Deputy President's spending on a hired jet that took the DP to several African countries.
When you come to the Hustlers Jet report, the question I would ask, why has the leadership of Parliament refused to ballot this report for debate?
It's a public document. It's been tabled. It's not indicting anybody, including the Deputy President. So he's trying to make it as if it's a high voltage report.
According to Namwamba, he is innocent of corruption claims leveled against him and his team, and that fingers of blame should point at Edan Duale, the leader of majority in the House. Duale says opposition has a fair share of blame for the delayed debate on the Hustlers Jet report.
The House can amend it. The House can approve it. So Babu Namwamba is just hanging into that report. But I want to tell the country that he can hang on the Hustlers Jet report or any other report, but the die is cast.
We've had some senior members in the Jubilee government saying that that report will never, ever be debated in Parliament. And we challenge Muturi as the Speaker that he has a mandate and a responsibility.
The report on the jet, which was used by Ruto on travels to lobby select governments to oppose the Kenyan trials in The Hague, was tabled in the National Assembly almost a year ago, but has never been debated by members. Duale argues he had no reason to block the report because no big shots were adversely mentioned as it appeared to indict junior civil servants.
What is going on with Babu Namwamba is not a walk in the park. It's not a birthday party. Babu Namwamba has created serious crimes within law.
But as blame game and finger pointing continues, the taxpayer whose money was overspent is left with no answers as to exactly who is responsible for the whole mess. The Hustlers Jet report could be the only document that embattled Budalangi Member of Parliament Babu Namwamba could be clinging on to save his face amidst claims of corruption in the Public Accounts Committee. Aaron Ocheng, KTN, Parliament.
A barrage of corruption allegations haunting Parliament. And tonight on The Big Question, we are narrowing down to one of them. We are asking you, do you think Parliament is committed to getting to the bottom of the Hustlers Jet audit report?
Let us know what you think. You can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu. You can also text us at 22155. We'd love to sample your views on that particular question. Right, Defense Principal Secretary Muturi Ringo skipped a summon to appear before the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Committee. The committee is investigating allegations of corruption within the suspended Parliamentary Accounts Commission. PSC Chairman and Budalangi Member of Parliament Babu Namwamba claimed the Principal Secretary bribed members of the committee to expunge his name and that of other prominent leaders from the committee's report. Muturi wrote an apology to the committee stating that he had to jet out of the country abruptly. The committee has set a later date in which Ringo is required to give his side of the story.
We received a letter which was delivered to the clerk on Friday that he was actually leading a delegation to India and he will not be here until the end of the week. So we slotted him to come before us on Monday the 23rd at 10 o'clock. But of course, there were many other issues which we eventually ended up deliberating.
So who is appearing before you tomorrow?
We have the leader of majority and the deputy leader of minority tomorrow.
Now, members of the National Assembly's committees are once again in the spotlight over political conspiracies to doctor Parliament's investigative reports, either forensicing or shielding their cronies from being mentioned adversely. Now, members of the Public Accounts Committee are being investigated by the Powers and Privileges Committee over claims of bribery and extortion to alter sensitive reports or misplace key files. KTN's Patrick Amimo is working on that story for you. Now, in matters insecurity, leader of Majority Aden Duale has moved to elaborate on what exactly he meant during an interview with the BBC Somali service. The weekend interview appeared to suggest that Duale had called for negotiations with the Al-Shabaab, but Duale says he simply called for talks between leaders of communities living along the Kenya-Somali border in Mandera.
دقيق يا علماء الدين يا سياسي وإذا مرينا نوشة المشا جوكتين كينيا إذا بناك لغمرة نيروي بناك لغمرة مشاكس بناك لغمرة.
The sentiments by Majority Leader Aden Duale, which seem to suggest that the government should offer an olive branch to the Al-Shabaab, raised eyebrows. Duale says negotiating with the Al-Shabaab is not an option.
The Jubilee administration is not in the business of negotiating with Al-Shabaab.
The leader of Majority is, however, standing by his words, but moving to expound on exactly what he meant.
The communities that live along the Kenyan border, who are our people, have their counterparts across the border, whether it's in Mandera or Garissa or Wajir. And the Al-Shabaab, on their way to attack Kenya, they pass through those communities. My position is this, that the communities on the Kenyan side should send their political leaders, their religious leaders, their elders to their counterparts across. And our brothers and sisters across the communities who live there must be held responsible for allowing people to pass through them to attack Kenyan citizens.
The Somalia border county of Mandera has in the last 1 year bore the brunt of terror attacks. The Garissa Township MP is suggesting changes to the forces fighting the Al-Shabaab along the Mandera border.
The president should go back to IGAD, to African Union, and he should ask that the sector that is controlled by the Ethiopians in Mandera should be handed over to the Kenyan Defense Forces, who are under the umbrella of AMISOM. Because I have a feeling that the Kenyan forces who are along the border from Lamu to Garissa to Wajir have now contained the incursion of Al-Shabaab. So we are better off to have our own people who care about our people.
Troops from Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Sierra Leone and Burundi, deployed in 6 sectors in south and central Somalia, are helping in the fight against terror under the African Union Mission in Somalia, AMISOM. Kenyan troops in charge of Sector 2 operate in the south. Terror is the country's biggest security threat. The formula to deal with it remains elusive. Rita Tinina, KTN. Let's now take you back to that story that Amimo was working on. Members of the National Assembly's committee are once again in the spotlight over political conspiracies to doctor Parliament's investigative reports, either for rent-seeking or for shielding their cronies from being mentioned adversely. Members of the Public Accounts Committee are being investigated by the Powers and Privileges Committee over claims of bribery and extortion to alter sensitive reports or misplace key files. The Orange Democratic Movement National Executive Committee has now challenged the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, to dissolve all committees and allow for thorough investigations. Patrick Amimo has more.
The Ababu Namwamba-led Public Accounts Committee is facing allegations of bribery and extortion by members to alter a report on the embezzlement of funds in the office of the President in the run-up to the 2013 general elections. Ababu Namwamba survived by a whisker when members attempted to topple him as chair before accusations and counter-accusations on bribery leaked to the public. Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, has ordered the committee to be investigated. Even before the dust on PAC could settle, another corruption scandal has hit the National Assembly's Agriculture Committee following claims that 22 of its members received bribes in millions of shillings to water down a report investigating corrupt deals by former managers of Mumias Sugar Company that led to the near collapse of the miller. Last month, the Speaker expressed concern over long delay of the committee's report. Agriculture Committee Chairman Adan Mohamed Noor has denied bribery claims against his team. 7 members of the committee did not sign the final report on Mumias tabled by Noor last week. The Orange Democratic Party's National Executive Committee met and resolved that all the 28 National Assembly's committees be dissolved and constituted following serious integrity issues touching on several committees.
Other committees of Parliament, i.e. the Agriculture Committee, the Lands Committee, and even the Energy Committee have been riddled with accusations and allegations of serious cases of corruption. In November last year, Chairman of the National Assembly's Committee on Lands, Alex Mwiru, curiously survived a censure motion from majority of members who had voted to kick him out for protecting Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu during the probe on ownership of the controversial 134-acre piece of land in Karen.
We as a committee are losing confidence in the manner that the chair of this committee is handling affairs of this committee. 24 members out of 29, have actually signed a vote of no confidence against the chairman. MPs rejected the Lands Committee report December last year when it was tabled for debate. It also might that only 7 out of 29 members of the committee signed the final report. In May last year, Chairman of the National Assembly's Committee on Administration and National Security, Asman Kamama, survived an attempt to remove him from chairmanship. Members who had planned a vote of no confidence against him changed mind following reconciliation efforts led by Leader of Majority Aden Duale. In June last year, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission said it was investigating 2 parliamentary committees over the handling of the Standard Gauge Railway project. The Transport Committee and Public Investments Committee undertook parallel investigations on the controversial project with claims money changed hands to influence writing of a positive report. In March last year, game lawmaker Jacob Midio kicked a storm in the House when he claimed that some committees had been turned into rent-seeking avenues. The National Assembly then agreed to immediately convene a special meeting in April to discuss the integrity of the House committees. The meeting failed. Bribery and extortion claims still taint Parliament's image. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Yes, and to just some news, Justin, that we are getting from Wajir is that 3 people have been reportedly shot dead and 1 person injured after a non-gunman attacked an M-Pesa shop at Barwako village that is in the county of Wajir. Details are still scanty at this moment. We are trying to get to the bottom of what's happening in a short while. I shall be speaking on phone to our correspondent in Wajir, Faisal Abdul Rahman. Now, the Orange Democratic Party is relishing trouncing President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Alliance Party to retain its Kajiado Central Parliamentary seat. Now, CORD leaders say the win is an indication of the tide turning ahead of the 2017 general election. KTN Samogina now reports.
The Orange team held vigil in Kajiado Central, basking in the glory of retaining the parliamentary seat left vacant by the elevation of Joseph Nkaiseri to the Interior Cabinet Secretary post. It was a bruising epic battle that saw ODM candidate Elijah Memusi pip JAP aspirant Patrick Tutui with only 500 votes, and CORD returned to Kajiado for a big thank you rally.
Leo tunataka kutangazia Jubilee kwamba haya ni mazoezi ya kufanya kazi kwenda Ikulu. Umechagua Memusi na hivi basi nyinyi mmedhibiti demokrasia ya Kenya yetu hii. Unaweza mkadhani vita hivi vilikuwa ni hata Kajiado Central. La, kama vita hivi vilikuwa ni vya wanademokrasia na wanaotaka kuonga wa Kenya. Ukitaka kushika panya kwa mtego unaweka nini? Nyama unaweka nini? Unaweka nini? Sio mliona nyama ndani ya mtego? Mliona nyama lakini mlihepa.
CORD managing to eclipse the president's political vessel JAP in a high-stakes game for both sides, essentially marking a stillbirth for the new political entrant. Analysts quip despite CORD upstaging JAP, the Jubilee Alliance Party handed the opposition a win on a silver platter.
The 2 strongest candidates in
Kajiado Central, Memusi and Tuitui both wanted to run under JAP. So how could they have done it in such a way that they did not create a candidate for ODM? Actually, ODM did not seem to have a candidate because Memusi and Tuitui were in the same basket, and that's the JAP basket. So the JAP literally handed over a candidate to ODM.
There is general consensus among Jubilee insiders that the Kajiado Central by-election was actually lost at the party's primaries. Both Memusi and Tuitui were eyeing the JAP ticket, where Memusi lost by nearly 2,000 votes. Despite the president and the deputy president forays in Kajiado, Memusi's win has handed JAP a contempt card in its first ever election.
Memusi seems to have been the candidate that the people wanted right from the word go. So whichever party carried Memusi appeared to have also the aspirations of the people.
Analysts say JAP's false start is attributable to the big party syndrome of bungling the internal nomination processes, skewing it in favor of the leadership's preferred aspirants. The result, a rejection by the voters.
What they learn is that they'll suffer in their strongholds the kind of problems that ODM has always had, which is that the party is so popular that if you're not careful, how you handle your primaries becomes your win or loss.
JAP now has the Kabete parliamentary seat by-election to redeem its battered image. Samugina, KTN.
You're watching KTN Prime. We thank you for staying with us. Let's now take you back to that breaking news that we alluded to earlier. 3 people have been killed and a known number injured after gunmen attacked an M-Pesa shop in Wajir at a place called Barwako. Let's now bring in Wajir reporter Faisal Abdirahman. Faisal, if you can hear me, we know that 3 people have been killed and a known number have been injured. What else do we know?
Thank you, Linda. And currently I'm at the scene, and security is beefed up. 3 people were killed, and I have seen that they are lying in the floor. But these people were burnt beyond recognition. Speaking to some police officers around here who are combing the area, say that these gunmen use some sophisticated weapon. And the M-Pesa shop, as we are speaking, I can see that some smoke coming out from the windows, and the resident trying to help rescue some belongings in that M-Pesa agent.
Okay, Faisal, let me just interject a little bit. You're talking about bodies burnt beyond recognition and smoke somewhere. Was the M-Pesa shop set ablaze? What happened?
It is unclear still. Speaking to some police, the police commander told me they are doing some investigation about what happened. But one person got injured in this. That was the M-Pesa attendant, who was a lady, and she was taken to Wajir District Hospital. But as we are speaking now, Red Cross and the police officers together are trying to take the bodies to Wajir Hospital, the mortuary.
Do you have any indication, Faisal, of the number of people who've been injured in that attack?
Still, we can't confirm that, but we have seen only one person who got injured at the.
All right, Faisal Abdirahman, thank you so much. Speaking to us from Wajir, where we understand 3 people have been killed and a known number are injured after gunmen attacked an M-Pesa shop at a place called Barwako. That is a story we're still focusing on for you. Once we get more details, of course, we'll let you know. Now, as the drought intensifies in Laikipia North, so is a cloud of anxiety that continues to loom over the residents of the vast region. The pastoralists, together with their livestock, are said to be invading private ranches for pasture. The ranch owners, however, have been resisting the invasion, saying the parcels of land are private and as such cannot allow the intrusion. Just last week, some ranches were set ablaze by agitated pastoralists. The ravaging effects of the drought can be felt far and wide, and stakeholders are calling upon the relevant authorities to mitigate the effects of drought. Carol Nderi was in Laikipia North and brings us the following story.
The ravages of the biting drought in Laikipia North can best be seen through the carcasses of livestock strewn across plains of this arid area. livestock so precious to the pastoralist communities in this region that the current precarious situation has brought untold misery to the residents who pride themselves in owning several heads of cattle. As we made our way through the interior, we came across a group of Maasai men, dejected that the cows they thought would make it till the next watering point had succumbed to hunger. Forced to slaughter the dead calf was their only reprieve. So dire is the situation that they say they have been forced to drive their livestock across borders and into private farms and ranches. The invasion has led to antagony between the pastoralists and ranch owners. We spotted a few manyatas put up next to fences where the owners wait for nightfall so as to let their animals graze in the private ranches. Just last week, a number of ranches were set ablaze by aggrieved pastoralists. This is Elngwesi Conservancy, famous for hosting Prince William and his then girlfriend Kate Middleton during their visit to Kenya. This room that they slept in, now famous as the honeymoon suite. Elngwesi too has not been spared from the invasion, as a few armed pastoralists could be sighted in the conservancy, an intrusion that has affected tourism on a large scale.
I've been to like 1,000 meetings, and they're still like saying, you know, they're not saying anything that they're there with the hippons, so like still grazing all over.
Mashamba ni makubwa, 75% ya Laikipia iko na watu ambayo ni wamiliki ambayo ni wale white settlers, wanaita white settlers. 75%. Sasa unashindwa hii 25% ndio imebakishwa wananchi watu wa kule nyasi.
The Kenya Defence Force has had to dig a large trench to dissuade pastoralists from breaking the fence and driving their livestock to graze on their land.
You charge me 300 shillings per cow per month. By the day the cow comes out of that ranch, it has consumed its own profit. What do we call that? Is that assistance? That's business.
Carcasses too could be seen here. The drying up of rivers, the only source of water for most, only serving to aggravate the situation further. Right here at this spot and river Nanyuki is an indicator of just how dire the situation is and the set of challenges the pastoralists in this region have to face. The authorities tasked with mitigating the ravaging effects of drought have been called on to pull their weight before the situation worsens. Lasting solutions should be sought as cycles of famine and drought are frequent in arid and semi-arid areas. Carol Derry, KTN in Laikipia North.
The situation there. Now let's take a look at the numbers on drought in the country. Now there are at least 1.6 million people who face starvation in the country. That is a big number.
So this is how we got here after a poor performance of the long rains between March and May 2014 in the arid and semi-arid zones. The drought situation continued to affect both pastoral and marginal agriculture livelihood zones. It is a situation that has continued to worsen due to increased food prices.
Well, the areas that have been hardest hit by the drought include Turkana, Marsabit, Samburu, Mandera, Wajir, Baringo and West Pokot. You recall that at the beginning of the year, Devolution Secretary Anne Waiguru said that the government will continue to undertake different interventions to help Kenyans facing drought.
That, of course, is a situation we are keeping our eye on. 1.6 is quite a big number. Let's remind you of a big question tonight. We are asking you if you think Parliament is committed to getting to the bottom of the Hustlers Jet audit report.
The artist Zef says no, there is no goodwill in debating the Hustlers Jet if the same has been shelved for over a year.
You want to read another one?
And there's Brian Muchili somewhere on Twitter who says no, they are too reluctant because I believe something is cooking. They are more corrupt.
All right, those are your opinions. Keep tweeting us. We'll keep sampling your views during this bulletin. Stay with us. We'll be back after this short break.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, Kenyans on social media have today trolled Nairobi Governor Evans Kidero over a tweet he posted in the afternoon.
Kidero tweeted that he was forced to walk to the Kempinski Hotel from the CBD to attend the conference as the traffic jam was heavy.
And Kenyans went ahead to criticize the governor over his apparent belated cognizance of what has plagued the city for quite a long time.
Hashtag CBD to Kempinski is what was trending on social media this afternoon. And just in case you missed the infamous tweet from the governor, this is it. Tuesday afternoon, he tweeted, quote, "Walked from CBD to Kempinski Hotel because of traffic. My priority is to reduce traffic." End of quote. He posted the same message on Facebook along with pictures of himself and his team walking. Whoa! The Nairobi governor's newest priority just became to solve Nairobi County's oldest problem. Not my sentiments really, but that of Kenyans on Twitter and Facebook who immediately threw in sarcastic responses to the tweet. But ones that showed that they were offended. On Facebook, Jemo Momanyi commented writing, quote, "That happens to Nairobi people daily and they cannot afford to walk because they can be mugged, unlike you who has 6 bodyguards. It is like you have just woken up and realized that there are jams in Nairobi." End of quote. Mkurima Farmer wrote, quote, "You cross roads at an undesignated point. Makanjo hawakukuona?" At Mwas L3R tweeted, "Good. That's one Nairobian problem under your leadership. Next, try walking downtown alone and get mugged. Hashtag being in touch." End of quote. At George Ng'ethe tweeted, "Kwani Kidero Evans doesn't know how pavements look like? Oh wait, they do not exist." End of quote. At Virus Detected wrote, quote, "No doubt a publicity stunt that fell flat on its face. We know sirens normally clear his way." End of quote.
Wakati alikuwa anaitisha kura, alikuwa anataka hiyo kazi. Na kama alikuwa anataka hiyo kazi, kwa nini kama ngari yake anaweza kutembea na mguu, vile kutembea na ngari yake, nayo ni mkubwa. Na mkubwa ni aibu kama tunasikia yeye anatembea na mguu kwa sababu ya njama. Ni kulingana kwamba ana kazi ile anajua anaweza kufanyia Nairobi.
Some would defend the governor though, like one Eugene Agengo who wrote on Facebook, quote, "that Kidero is not the cause of traffic jams in Nairobi. I wonder where some people get their facts from. Do your research well. Poor planning is to blame. He did not plan for that." End of quote. Movement around the city has for a long time been a nightmare for city dwellers who have to endure long hours in traffic jams. A few days ago, the Nairobi County government and the national government's Ministry of Transport unveiled a plan to ease the perpetual traffic gridlock in the city. The plan includes replacing roundabouts with crossroads and installing another traffic light system, which raised questions on how effective this would be given that the existing traffic lights are barely effective. And now Nairobi has a walking governor. One would wonder, is this an admission to being unable to solve this perennial menace? Sharon Omanyi, KTN.
Thank you, Sharon. Now, teachers have now supported job evaluation exercise on condition that it shall not affect the current salary review efforts at the industrial court. The two teachers' unions say they will support the exercise if its findings will be used for future reward of teachers and salaries, and not now. NAT and Kupet officials said they have never opposed the evaluation exercise. Speaking at the forum organized by the SRC NAT, Secretary General Wilson Sosion said that job evaluations have no connection with the current collective bargaining agreement and thus they will not stop it from going on.
The exercise will help us determine the relative worth of the jobs and positions within the public sector, and therefore removing the discriminative determination of jobs, because it will be easier for every employer, every union member to understand and to know the relative worth of each position, and therefore claim and position themselves along the relative worth of every position.
Other individuals should not hijack this process and use it to block business in the sector. And even employers, no. It should be purely business of SRC that we must all embrace. It must be allowed to move to its conclusive stages. Then we can utilize the findings productively and usefully.
Well,
Well, a very good evening and welcome to KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. We kick off our business bulletin on a rather unfortunate development. Starting Wednesday, Kenyan Airlines will have restricted entry into Tanzania following a review of bilateral air service agreements with the Tanzanian authorities. The Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority has slashed the frequency of flights into Tanzania by as much as 30% following what it terms non-commitment by the Kenyan government to negotiate the service agreement. The hardline response taken by Tanzania could have far-reaching effects for Kenyan Airlines, going further to cement the two countries' frosty relations. In a letter seen by KTN Business, the Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority has opted to slash frequencies of Kenyan operators into Tanzania from 42 to 14 a week, as well as limit entry points to Kilimanjaro, Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar. The authority went a step further to limit the type of aircraft from Kenya to Embraer's 190s and the Boeing 737-800, and has also asked Kenyan Airways to submit a revised flight schedule in line with the new regulations. Bilateral air service agreements talks between the two countries have been ongoing since 2007, with the Tanzanian government feeling aggrieved by the Kenyan government as perceived slow response to the matter. The new development are the latest diplomatic and trade tiffs between Kenya and Tanzanian governments. The move by Tanzania also comes barely 3 months after the presidents of Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda and South Sudan signed a pact on the management of the Northern Corridor airspace block, expected to reduce the cost of air travel in the region. And now to some interesting news. It will soon take you just 14 days to register a property in Kenya as the government rolls out measures meant to improve the cost and ease of doing business in the country. According to the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report, it currently takes 72 days to register property in the country, far longer than Rwanda's 32 days, which has hurt Kenya's competitiveness as an investment destination. Kenya also lost points owing to the cost of transport and energy, the complicated taxation system, the high cost of credit and time needed to register a business, forcing the country to settle for position 136 out of the 189 in the index. But the government says it is hoping for better results this year thanks to investments in the energy sector that have seen the cost of power fall significantly. Investments in road and port infrastructure and automation of systems at the Kenya Revenue Authority. The government is also planning to roll out a new customs system that will make it easier for traders to transact businesses across East African borders.
It becomes very difficult, especially when you're importing and you have to go to customs, you go to the long room, you go to this, you go to that. All those processes are going to be eliminated by another project we are calling the electronic single window, which will automate all the trade facilitation processes.
What we are here for, we start from areas like, starting a business, how do you register a business, how long does it take, to areas like registering a business, a property in this country, to how long does it take you to get power connection in this country, how is our tax payments in this country, how is it like getting credit in this country.
For the first time in 6 months, Kenyan consumers will have to pay more at the pump following the upward review of fuel prices by the Energy Regulatory Commission. The new prices have sparked controversy among consumer lobby groups and economists who feel there's no sufficient justification for the hike. KTN's Charles Gitonga has more.
Over the weekend, on the 14th of the month, the Energy Regulatory Commission did announce the new fuel prices for the next 1 month, an announcement that has caused hue and cry among consumers, ranging from manufacturers to households. The big question being, is there authenticity in the numbers that the ERC is presenting to consumers? Or better still, why is Kenya not benefiting effectively from the low fuel prices that we are seeing globally? In the 6 months between September 2014 and February 2015, the average price of crude oil came down from $96 per barrel to an average low of $47 in January. The prices rose to $55 per barrel in February 2015.
We have mentioned before that there is a relationship between the crude oil prices and the refined products which we import.
Other than the refining and shipping costs, taxes and levies account for 33% of the total price, supplier margins take up 12%, and distribution costs eat up 5%. Economists say that these levies deny Kenyans the opportunity to spend less at the pump.
I think this is a call to the government to look at the situation, because this is not a good situation. It is in the national interest.
ERC and oil marketers also attribute the price hike to the movement of the currency between January and February. During the period, the Kenya shilling hit a low of 90 shillings and 74 cents to the dollar and a high of 91 shillings and 70 cents.
If at that time what the price was, and at the time now what the pressure on Kenya shillings, it determines also the prices here.
But economists say that the depreciation of 96 cents is not significant enough to justify the increase in prices.
The move in the shilling has been so marginal. To keep bringing up the shilling makes me think you don't know what you're talking about when you are the ERC.
The ERC has been under fire since September last year as consumers queried the high fuel price regime in the country despite the steep reduction in crude oil prices. In its Economic Outlook report for 2015, the World Bank pointed out that the formula did not accommodate logical price transmission mechanism, even considering the 45-day time lag for oil imports. The organization called on the ERC to reduce the gap of international crude oil price drop and domestic prices.
The World Bank says it's a 36% discrepancy. We have not transmitted the lower price to our economy. We have played with it, and it is not fair.
It now remains to be seen how this price hike will affect various sectors of the economy and what impact it will have on the local manufacturers who had started to lower prices of their goods, which had signaled a more favorable cost of living for Kenyans in the future. Charles Gitonga, KTN.
Well, indeed, the fuel prices has been a subject that has been interesting quite a number of Kenyans, and we will be keeping an eye on how that story continues to develop. CMC Holdings is making a play to secure major cash franchises deals in the country. The car dealer is eyeing 12 new franchises within the year, as well as investment in showrooms across the country as it seeks to regain its footing as the top car dealer in the country. This comes in the wake of new investments by its parent company, Alfutain, following the launch of several key brands over the years. Here's more on that story. Kenya's car market has been a hotbed of activity over the last 5 years. Increased spend on cars coupled with the entry of global brands has made the automotive sector very lucrative. It has been especially profitable for car dealers with mega franchises seeking to increase car sales. It is this money-spinning venture that the CMC Motors is angling for to boost its fortunes after years of hardship.
Our whole drive is to ramp up our customer after-sales proposition. If we can do that, it will be the route to entry by way of new car purchase consideration, and that remains our focus.
CMC, with the banking of its parent company, Alfutain, plans to invest heavily in fighting for 12 car franchises just in 2015.
What we're looking at is where there may be openings in East Africa with a franchise portfolio to expand our footprint.
Don't forget that we have 12 franchises that we are developing, and that's very, very huge in terms of potential for business for CMC. The repositioning that you're doing for CMC, I'm sure that you're going to be back where we used to be.
For the 60-year-old car dealer, the last few years have been anything but smooth. CMC has lost key franchises including Jaguar Land Rover, Volkswagen, and most recently Iveco.
And if you look at the KMI numbers of Land Rover sales over the past 18 months, there is a sharp deterioration.
But with a market with endless opportunities, CMC is keen to revive its fortunes.
We want to offer value-based pricing, both on spare parts and after-sales, that fundamentally sell the second and the third car.
Today, CMC received a major boost from its Ford franchise, which recommitted its partnership. Tied to the partnership is a 2.3 billion shillings four-year lease agreement with the government to lease 500 vehicles to be used by the police service.
It means that you're going to be finding a Ford in every corner of the Republic.
This will offer a major lifeline to CMC that seeks to get back to profit-making ways. Data from the Kenya Motor Industry Association shows that new car sales jumped 20.3% in 2014,
with 17,499 units sold, underlying the lucrative nature of the business. Abiagina, KTN Business.
Action-packed and sporty day. It has been a very good evening and welcome to today's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Moses Wahisi. Now, the national men's basketball team will get a taste of what a well-oiled team have to offer, and that is when they compete in the Four Nations tournament in Johannesburg, South Africa, starting from tomorrow. The team, which has not been so impressive in the recent past, is expecting that is going to get redeemed in the tournament that is set to start tomorrow. Take a look. After landing an invite to play in a Four Nations basketball tournament to be held in South Africa, the Kenya team has been sharpening its arsenal with optimism of a positive outing. The team of 12 is largely made up of youngsters including United States International University's Kevin Kigodho, Victor Bosire and Alvin Anyango, together with Ivan Ochieng from Cooperative Bank, who will be wearing the national colors for the first time.
In South Africa, experience, first of all, exposure, then we hope we'll win that thing.
This is their first time, so they need the experience from out there, and there's no better way of gaining experience than going to play against international players. So for us, that's the thing, we want to build on the experience we're going to get in South Africa as we prepare for the qualifiers later on this year.
With the quest of international trophy, the young lads are set to get exposed so as to mold them for the future assignment with the national team. The team has failed to sparkle in a number of international assignments, but head tactician Kari Othiambo, together with the Kenya Basketball Federation leadership, hopes for a positive display down south.
We are well prepared for the championship. These are very young squads. We have very high hopes in them, and I'm very sure they're going to give very good account of themselves down in South Africa.
So to learn a lot of things, we expect to play well. First we need to start playing well, we start playing to win. Once we play well, now you're thinking about winning.
Kenya Basketball Federation will meet the cost of air return tickets for the contingent of 16 expected to depart Nairobi on Wednesday, with the host nation taking care of all logistics and accommodation while the team is in South Africa.
I want to urge parents to support their children in taking up the game. I think quite a number of parents are still not as supportive, but once they see what is going on, I'm very sure they'll step forward. They'll also come and support us.
The tournament will bring together host South Africa, Mozambique, Nigeria and Kenya. To matters rally now. Kenya is putting up all the necessary measures to ensure that the country wins back the rights to host one of the World Rugby Championship legs. Kenya has been trying to get back its lost glory over a decade now without success, but stakeholders are happy that white smoke is about to bellow from the chimneys of the world governing body, the FIA. The World Rally Championship dominated talks during the launch of the 63rd edition of the KCB Safari Rally.
It has been 12 years since Kenya was stripped of her WRC status following run-ins with the FIA over security during the event. But stakeholders have been working with the government to have the country host what drivers then described as the toughest rally on earth. The Easter break 12 years ago and beyond was a moment motorsport lovers looked forward to, something that the organizers of the 63rd edition were cognizant of. They moved the calendar back to Easter in a bid to not only bring back the family aspect of the championship, but rekindle the cherished memories of the safari. Safety, the very reason that convinced the FIA to take away the world event from Kenya, remains a point of focus.
We expect that in 3 years, we will be the best run event in Africa, possibly in the world, and WRC will knock on our door as opposed to what we've been doing for 12 years, knocking on their door.
Several federations have been on the warpath with constant squabbles affecting the operations, and KMSF hopes they will avoid that path as they try to entice WRC. During the 63rd edition of the KCB Safari Rally, the executive committee announced the drivers' well-being will be of utmost importance, with chopper on standby for evacuation services.
We're going to try and bring this sport into one of the most transparent sports in this country. The stakeholders are happy. They are now going to know where their sponsorship money is going and how it's used.
As we get to take this rally back to the international map as part of the World Rally Championship, KCB wishes to urge all of us to redirect our energies to enhancing this sport to even greater heights.
2 new sections have been added to the 3-day rally that will start in Nairobi on April the 3rd. Then traverse Machakos, Laikipia and Meru counties. Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
To matters rugby, Richard Umwela has made a return to the Kenya Rugby Union as the board chairman. Umwela was elected at an annual general meeting this evening, where he garnered a total of 25 votes against Gabriel Ouko's 18 votes. In a financial report that was presented before the elections took place, KRU disclosed that it has made losses despite an improved income in the last financial year. The union incurred a deficit of over 18 million Kenyan shillings. The Kenya Rugby Union annual general meeting went on as scheduled, following a clearance by the court where there was a request from one of the factions barring the AGM from taking place. There was tight security at the RFEA grounds, the venue of the AGM. Before the elections, the Gabriel Ouko-led board presented the financial statement where they disclosed an increase in income, although they also incurred huge expenses that resulted to an 18 million deficit. Stormers FC chairman threatened to bar the election from going on. After minutes of deliberations, National Olympic Committee Treasurer James Chacha carried on his role as a recruiting officer in the ballot and counted the ballot papers that saw former Rugby Union chairman Richard Umwela make a return to the board. Umwela garnered 25 votes against Gabriel Ouko's 18.
My first responsibility will be to try and reconcile the different factions in rugby just now, so that we have a united rugby once again like we had before. We can actually begin to talk to sponsors again, because sponsors are looking for value, sponsors are looking for visibility, sponsors are looking for recognition that they're sponsors. We have had a situation where we understand some of our directors were actually insulting sponsors. I think it's something that is unacceptable, something that we cannot condone.
To matters soccer, the Kenya Premier League will resume Thursday with defending champions Gor Mahia set to host Bandari FC at the City Stadium. The league had been stopped after just one round following a court injunction. Former champions Ulinzi Stars will restart their campaign with a home match against Western Stima, while KCB plays host Nakuru All Stars at Nyayo Stadium. The second match at the same venue pits City Stars against AFC Leopards. While KPL released their fixtures, Football Kenya Federation asked KPL chairman Ambrose Rachel to consider an existence of a two-zoned league. In the letter signed by the FKF chairman Sam Nyamoya, the federation suggested that the clubs recently promoted by the federation be in Zone B, while those that KPL be in Zone A. And that at the end of the season, winners to be decided by a playoffs during which 18 teams will be picked on merit to compete in a unified league.
Right, so on the big question before we wind up KTN Prime, we are focusing on graft. We are asking you, do you think Parliament is committed to getting to the bottom of the Hustlers Jet audit report?
Okay, let's see what you think. Mashara Mwangi says the same phrase, nani atauliza mkubwa, phrase still exists in our institutions and leadership. No.
Ali Sika says the whole system is a disgrace. Everyone has something to hide.
Patrick Alishula, no, there are just a few individuals who have held this country hostage and can't allow such report to be tabled.
Charles Opil on Twitter says sadly politicians love listening to their own echoes and never the voice of reason.
Atoya Stanley says I cannot hold my breath on matters accountability in this parliament because self-preservation always supersedes public interest.
Masood Juma says, no, the report will be swept under the carpet, and don't forget the tyranny of numbers.
Finally, Sylvester Aura says, members of parliament will always be united in defending one of their own. Remember, Keter, they make and break the laws.
Thank you for your texts and tweets on our big question tonight, and for joining us on KTN Prime this Tuesday night. My name is Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.
I'm Linda Guta. We'll see you tomorrow.